Lord, thereafter, Lord, the first draft is prepared, and Article 55 of the first draft, my Lord, there were two. Lord, orally, my Lord, I'll point out there were two committees constituted. One was Union Committee within the Constituent Assembly. Another was Provinces Committee. Union Committee was headed by Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru ji, and a Provincial Committee was headed by Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. And they both, my Lord, Nehru ji decided the All India structure, and Sardar Patel's, my Lord, committee not decided, my Lord, they recommended how the states, and they used to be known as provinces, how the states would function as a part of the overall federal setup which we have envisaged. It's not a federal setup, not as understood in America, that every state is as such independent with its own Supreme Court, etc. We have a different
its own constitution also.
Its own constitution. The governor is the chief, my Lord, in American states. We have, my Lord, a different collaborative kind of a federal constitution. My Lord. Now, when Mr. B.N. Rao, my Lord, prepared Section 55 is his, my Lord, function. There is his version. There shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President in exercise of his functions. After a detailed scrutiny, my Lord, now draft, my Lord, I'm skipping reading. 61 is what the drafting committee drafted. 61, my Lord, at page 127, your Lordships have. There shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President in the exercise of his functions. Your Lordships would notice the discretion, exercise of powers in his judgment, which was there earlier with the Governor General, is now not available with the President of India. He is supposed to exercise the powers as per aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The question whether any, and if so, what advice was tendered by ministers to the President shall not be inquired into in any court. Please mark this, my Lord. This is the sanctity given to the Minister-President advice, that it is immune from examination even by the courts. There are provisions made under the Constitution where some of the executive acts and legislative acts or quasi-legislative acts are made immune from the scrutiny of the court. That's the balance, my Lord, of separation of powers, which I'll ultimately, my Lord, assist your Lordships with.
9th schedule.
Yeah, yes. Other than 9th schedule also, there are certain issues where the Constitution bars any judicial scrutiny. My Lord, this is how, my Lord, this article was debated in the Constituent Assembly. Mr. Muhammad Tahir, Mr. Vice President, sir, I beg to move that at the end of clause 1 of Article 61, the following be inserted. Except insofar as he is by or under this Constitution required to exercise his function or any of them in his discretion. So there was a suggestion that the discretion which is taken away from 1935 Act should be restored. If this amendment is accepted, then the article would read thus. Lord, I'll skip that. Now my second amendment is as follows, that the following new clause be inserted after clause 1 of Article 61. Article 61 is, my Lord, precursor to Article 74, present Article 74. And the existing clause 2 be renumbered as clause 3. If any question arises whether any matter is or not a matter as respects which the President is by or under this Constitution required to act in his discretion, the decision of the President in his discretion shall be final, and the validity of anything done by the President shall not be called in question on the grounds that he ought or ought not to have acted in his discretion. Again, my Lord, restoring the position of 1935 Act. The Governor General had this discretion, and that discretion will not be called in question, was sought to be amended, my Lord, or suggested to be amended while framing the article. In moving these amendments, I want the President of India, although he is a nominal President in the words of my honorable friend, Mr. Kamath. Kindly pause here for a minute. Mr. Kamath always says he is a nominal President. and rest of the, including Dr. Ambedkar, they say that this is a different indirect election method we have adopted. Unlike the queen or king, he is not a successor. He doesn't get his office by succession. He is an elected person, elected by indirect representation of not only the parliament, both the houses of parliament, but even the state legislatures. So he represents the legislative and democratic will and mandate of the entire nation by way of an indirect election, unlike in USA where there is a direct election of the president. But Mr. Kamath has chosen to describe the Honorable President. Yes, but he says there is a nominal president. He always, I don't wish to go into it because it's not necessary, but he always found that he is not an elected person. He is not an elected person. That's how he understood it. And it would come somewhere, in the debate, that he is an elected person. He represents the will of the nation. Maybe by way of an indirect election. I elect my MP and my MP elects the President of India. He represents me.
That's the reason why we call ourselves Republic.
Yes, exactly. That's the very heart and soul of the term Republic. In moving these amendments, I want that the President of India, although he is a nominal president, in the words of my honorable friend, Mr. Kamath, still I want that the President should not be tied down all around. At least this House should be generous enough to give him the freedom of using his discretionary powers. In introducing this exception, I would submit that it is not a novel exception. If you will be pleased to look at Article 143 of the draft Constitution, you will find that the same exception has been allowed in respect of governors and the ministers of state. The governors still continue to have this discretion, and there is a debate why that discretion is conferred on the governor. That is essence of the federalism, which has a unitary tilt. But at the same time, the governor is supposed to exercise certain other functions, and therefore that discretion continues with the governor. When the governor of the states have been given power to exercise certain powers in their discretion, I do not see any reason why this innocent power should not be granted to the President of India. I need not make any long speech in this connection. I close my speech with the hope that my honorable friend Dr. Ambedkar will consider this question seriously and decide in favor of my amendments. Then, my lord, amendment is negative. The discretion does not remain now in Article 74. So, my lord, this amendment suggests earlier was there in 1935, not there in the draft article, sought to be inserted and not conferred. Now, my lord, final draft as it stands today, there shall be a, my lord, on page 128, there shall be a council of ministers with the Prime Minister at the head to aid and advise the President, who shall, in exercise of his functions, act in accordance with such advice, provided that the President may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice, either generally or otherwise, and the President shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such reconsideration. So he can send it once, but if it comes back from the Council, he is bound. The question whether any, and if so what, advice was tendered by the ministers to the President shall not be inquired into in any court. But again, a constitutional bar against any judicial oversight. Now, my lord, Article 155. This is appointment of the governor.